Hey, welcome back. We are going to add to our modeling tool document, and this time we're going to add a part studio for the Revolve tool. So I'm going to add a part studio. I'm going to rename it Revolve. Okay, Revolve is the next tool in the ribbon next to Extrude. So we're going to learn about that. If you hover over it, it says create, add to, subtract from, or intersect parts by revolving a sketch region or a face about a central axis. So very simply, let's just start a new sketch. Okay, on the front, doesn't really matter which plane, but let me grab, do a rectangle, and I'm going to go ahead and accept that. I'm going to keep this as simple as I can be. So it's literally just a rectangle, and I'm going to turn on the Revolve tool. The Revolve tool needs two things. It needs a sketch region, okay? And after choosing a sketch region or regions, it's then going to alert you that you also need an axis to spin around. So when you're ready to select that, you can click this red box. So Onshape knows that's what you're going to input next by clicking on it. So I'm going to click a line here, and what I'm going to get is a disk because I'm taking this rectangle and I'm rotating, revolving it around that. It's a little easier to visualize what's happening if I change this setting from full to one direction, because then I can grab the arrow and just kind of help you pull it and see what's happening. So the object that's created is by taking that rectangle and pivoting it around that axis. Okay, so because this rectangle, one of the sides was the revolve axis, we just get a solid disk. Okay, so there you go. So we could do a full revolve, or you could specify a certain number of degrees to spin. You can do that in one direction. You can do it symmetrically. You can go in two directions, kind of like the extrude menu, where you could go in two directions, but kind of opposite amounts. Okay, so you can kind of get the exact wedge or shape that you want playing around with that. All right, so I'll just put it on one direction, and maybe I'll leave it partway, not a whole. Kind of looks like Pac-Man, right? Okay, so let's do another one. So another sketch. I'll use the front plane again. I'm going to front. I'll do another rectangle, but this time I'm going to make a line off to the side. And that line is going to be my axis to spin around. So instead of choosing one of the edges that's the part of the perimeter, I'll choose a line that has a distance, some offset from it. And let's see what happens there. So I'm going to turn on Revolve. I'm going to choose my sketch region. I'm done doing that. So now I'm going to click here to alert it that the next selection is the axis to revolve around. And let's take a peek by rotating. Okay, this time I get a hole. It looks like a washer, because that axis that I'm revolving around had some distance between the profile and it. As it spins, basically each point inside this little area has to maintain the exact same distance from this as it spins around. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're staying at a set distance from the axis as we revolve. Okay, so that creates a hole. So if you know you want a hole in something, your sketch can be off the axis you're going to spin around. Know that the distance from your sketch profile to the axis ends up being the radius of the hole, not the diameter. Okay, because that distance, it's doubled as you spin around it, right? Whatever this distance was here in the sketch, right? As you start to revolve, we end up with that same distance here. Okay, so it'd be good to know that inside the sketch, this distance right here, if we were to dimension it, will become your radius of your hole. So if I wanted a half-inch radius, or a half-inch diameter, I would do half of that. Half of a half is a fourth. So I could create a 1/4. Now it kind of proportionally scaled everything in my sketch down real quick when I did that, since it was the first dimension of the sketch. But I'll make that a little bigger again. And so a 1/4 inch radius will become a 1/2 inch diameter. Okay. All right. All right, let's just have some other fun with the revolve. Let's see. I like donuts. How about we make a donut? I'm going to make a donut by taking a circle and revolving it around a line, and that line being some little distance off of that. Now, I don't want you to think that you always have to revolve around a line that is vertical, so I'm going to make this, I'm close to the hole, but at just kind of a funky angle. I'll accept that, and we're going to revolve my circle around this line, and kind of take a peek. It looks kind of like a donut. Just needs some powdered sugar now, right? And again, you can play around with the distance here. That's going to affect the size and kind of proportions of your donut. So my donut gets bigger for sure, right? I didn't change the profile. By moving this further away, I have a greater circumference that I have to navigate. So I simply get a bigger donut, but it kind of starts to look thinner, but it's truly just a bigger donut. Right? If I move that further and further away. So, I mean, if I'm really hungry, want a really big donut, I might get that. I know that starts to look skinny, but it's not. It's just giant. You might not have a big enough fryer for that donut. So that distance is just helping make a bigger or smaller donut. And if I actually, if I want to kind of change the thickness of the donut, I could, change the size of that circle. And so now that'd be another way to make it bigger or smaller. I just made it a smaller donut, right? And so I know proportionally some of you really want that axis to be a certain distance away because you have a certain proportional look to it, but that just became more of a mini donut than the full-size donut, right? So, I mean, who doesn't like a good bag of donut minis, right? Okay. Sometimes students ask me how to create a sphere, like a ball, so basketball, something. So let's do yet another one. To create a sphere, you actually don't need a full circle. You need exactly half of a circle because we're going to revolve it, and that'll turn, when it revolves, we'll get the other half. So I'm going to start with a line as my axis, and then I'm going to do the 3-point arc using those 2 endpoints. I'm going to go ahead and move this until I get, let's see, it's not wanting to get me a constraint. I want to get an exact semicircle. And to do that, I need this point to live on that line. So I'll use the coincident constraint to put that point on that line. Now I have an exact semicircle. And I'm going to use the revolve tool to revolve that semicircle around this diameter. And I will get a sphere. Okay, so that's how you make a sphere or a ball. Just revolve a semicircle. That's the easiest way. All right, in class, we then just had a little fun with trying to make some, maybe feeling like what might be a more organic shape. So let's see, do another one. I used the spline tool in class, and I don't know, just kind of stretch this around. You have to double click to end it. And then a line. And this is going to interfere with the other stuff, so I'm going to drag it somewhere else. So that looks kind of funky, like a blob, but then when we revolve it, amazingly, it might start to look like something in real life. So now it kind of looks like a knob or maybe a lid. It starts to not look so abstract anymore. So after revolving that, right? We did something like that. Anyway, that's enough. I just wanted you to play around with the revolve tool. So I think if you've made a sphere, you kind of made something else. We made kind of a donut. You get the idea of the revolve tool. Okay, there you go.